The movie opens in 1986 on a stormy night, where a man is seen digging up a grave. He then pulls a corpse from the earth and drags it away into the darkness. He brings the corpse to his house and begins a dark ritual. First, he pours water over the corpse's head, then opens the shroud and starts chanting ominously. Meanwhile, a child secretly hides nearby, watching the eerie scene unfold. As the man lifts his hand, the corpse's eyes suddenly open, and the scene cuts off there. In 1996, Vay and Kartika celebrate their friend Mawar's birthday at their college canteen. As Kartika blows out the candle, Vay playfully cracks an egg on her head, prompting Kartika to throw flour back at her. And this lighthearted moment beautifully showcases the strong bond and affection among the three friends. Later, Mawar asks Vay to hand her a pad from her bag. When Mawar emerges, they compliment her, and Vay adds a clip to her hair for a little extra flair. Kartika tells her she's never looked prettier, suggesting they meet some boys, to which Mawar insists she wants to look good for her parents too. Vay says she is getting late, to which Mawar playfully asks who turned the celebration into such a mess. Vay asks if her sister Melody is coming, but Mawar says she's too busy at her dorm. Next, we see Mawar sitting by her parents' graves in her village. She apologizes for arriving so late and shares how much she and Melody miss them. With a heavy heart, she reminisces about the birthday celebrations they used to enjoy, and her sadness deepens as she speaks. Mawar then asks for their blessings and wishes for a boyfriend who truly loves her, someone who cares deeply and will always be there for her, just like her parents had been for each other. As her prayer ends, a gentle wind begins to blow, carrying with it the sound of some music. Mawar looks around, and we see that the source of the sound is a bamboo wind chime, swaying softly in the breeze. However, Mawar remains unaware of its presence. As Mawar exits the graveyard, she hears footsteps following her, but when she turns around, she finds no one there. However, as she turns back, a dog suddenly barks at her, startling her. Just then, the dog becomes frightened by something behind Mawar and quickly scurries away. That night, when Mawar returns to her hostel, Kartika tells her that Alex wants to take her clubbing. Mawar smiles upon hearing this, prompting Vay to tease her about the smile on her face. When Mawar brushes it off, Kartika presses on, asking if someone gave her a ride home. The playful banter continues, and Mawar, feeling shy, runs toward her room to escape the teasing. In her room, Mawar takes out a box from her bag containing a red ribbon, and as she looks at it, her eyes light up with excitement, a sparkle of joy crossing her face. After a while, the phone rings, and Kartika answers it, but no one responds. However, a moment later, she hears the sound of wind chimes on the other end. Puzzled, she disconnects the call but gets startled to find Mawar standing behind her, and tells her it was just a prank call and suggests they ignore it. The next morning, Kartika asks Mawar if the prankster called again last night. Mawar shyly smiles in response, prompting Kartika to excitedly suggest that it might have been her mysterious boyfriend who hung up when he realized it wasn't her who answered. Donna asks if Mawar has a boyfriend and playfully teases Kartika, asking when it will be her turn. Kartika jokes that Tupac is the only man for her, and suddenly, Vay notices that Mawar's nose has started bleeding. Later, we see Vay and Mawar at their college when Mawar suddenly stops, her face clouded with anger. Confused, Vay turns to see what's wrong and notices that Mawar is staring intensely at her boyfriend Alex. Mawar tells her that Alex is cheating, and as Alex approaches them, Mawar storms off without saying a word to him. Puzzled, Alex asks Vay what's going on with her friend, to which Vay asks him about the girl he was with. Alex explains that it was Miss Lynn, the campus psychic who hosts a radio show that even Kartika listens to. That night, Kartika, Vay, and Donna sit at the dinner table, waiting for Mawar. Growing impatient, Donna suggests they start without her, saying that Mawar is probably on a dinner date with her new boyfriend. Later, as their caretaker Pa goes outside to throw out the garbage, she notices the house gate is wide open. She closes it and continues with her task, but gets horrified to see a face appear inside it. Trembling, she cautiously approaches the bag to inspect it, but finds nothing unusual. Just as she picks it up to throw it away, the gate suddenly swings open on its own. When Pa comes back inside, she finds Mawar in the kitchen and offers to help her, to which Mawar politely declines pouring hot water into the cups. She then tells Pa that it's for her guest, to which Pa reminds her to let her guest know that she'll be locking the gate soon. Mawar leaves the room without saying anything, and after she's gone, Pa curiously checks the teapot and discovers that it's still hot. The next morning, Pa notices strange stains on the floor and begins mopping them up. As she cleans, she realizes that neither Mawar nor her guest had touched the coffee from the night before. Just then, Alex arrives, and Pa quickly asks him to remove his shoes. He complies and then asks if he can head upstairs for a moment, swearing that he won't go into Vei's room. Once upstairs, Alex hears Mawar talking to someone in her room. Curious, he tries to peek through the window to see who she's with, but he's startled by a terrifying face rushing past, causing him to jump back in fear. Vei asks him what's wrong, but he brushes it off, saying it's nothing, and suggests they leave. As he leaves, Mawar opens her door, and Vei asks if she wants to go with them. But when Mawar doesn't respond, Vei suggests she drop by the radio station later. At her college radio station, Kartika receives a call. She asks for the caller's name and if they'd like to request a song or send a greeting. When there's no response, she jokes about having a shy caller, but suddenly, the eerie sound of wind chimes on the other end startles her. A few moments later, a demonic voice speaks, saying from Restu to Mawar. Shocked, Kartika asks, Mawar from Anthropology, class of 94? To which the voice ominously replies, keep our promise. That evening, Alex asks Vei if she's ever seen Mawar with a guy in her room. Confused, Vei asks what he means, but Alex quickly brushes it off, saying he has to leave and avoids explaining further. Later, Vei is recording her project on a tape recorder when she suddenly hears Mawar giggling from her room. Curious, she pauses her work and rewinds the tape, and as she plays it back, she's shocked to hear Mawar's voice saying, Restu, promise me you'll never leave me, and I promise I'll follow you wherever you go. Perplexed, Vei steps outside, searching for Mawar, and finds her on the stairs. She confronts her, asking if she's been talking to her boyfriend and inviting him into her room. Mawar remains silent, staring blankly at Vei. But when Vei asks if his name is Restu, a creepy smile slowly spreads across Mawar's face, and without uttering a word, she walks away, leaving Vei unsettled. The next day, Vei plays the eerie recording for Kartika, who shares what she discovered. She explains that she had asked around and discovered there are 3 Restus on campus. The first is a literature major, but he already has a girlfriend. The second Restu is a girl, and the last one dropped out 2 years ago. Later, Alex confides in Vei, telling her that the other day he saw an eye peeking out from Mawar's window. When Vei asks him to describe the eye, he admits it was too quick to see clearly, but adds, Lynn said. Hearing Lynn's name, Vei gets angry, accusing Alex of involving her, and just then, she notices Lena nearby. Confronting her, Vei asks if she's really a psychic and what she's been saying about Mawar, to which Lynn calmly suggests they talk somewhere more private. Lena explains that Alex mentioned seeing something unusual in Mawar's room, so she performed a cleansing ritual on him. Vei asks if what he saw was supernatural, adding that Mawar has been acting strangely ever since she got a boyfriend, and the change started after Mawar visited her parents' graves. Lena asks if anything unusual happened when she went there, and Vei recalls that Mawar went too late, despite their warnings, and was also on her period. Lena then asks if Mawar brought anything home that night. Confused, Vei asks what she means, to which Lena closes her eyes and tells Vei that she sees a wooden box. She warns that spirits might have attached themselves to Mawar, or someone could have placed a spell on her. Later, Vei takes the spare keys to Mawar's room from Pa and sneaks inside. She finds the wooden box Lena mentioned, and opening it, she discovers a red ribbon and decides to keep it. However, as she puts the box down, Mawar suddenly confronts her. Vei says she's worried about her boyfriend, to which Mawar coldly tells her to stay out of it, saying she doesn't know him. Vei counters that she never introduced him and asks if she knows anything about his background, or if Melody is aware of this. Mawar angrily tells Vei not to drag Melody into it and sits at her dressing table. Vei, trying to calm the situation, explains that they just don't want her involved with the wrong guy, to which Mawar insists his name is Restu. and that he's a good person. Just then, Vei notices blood trickling from Mawar's ear, but Mawar tells her to leave her alone. Meanwhile, Kartika is watching the news when it reports that famous rapper Tupac Shakur was gunned down in his vehicle in Las Vegas. Vei walks in and immediately turns off the TV, telling Kartika that something is wrong with Mawar's boyfriend, and explains that she spoke to Lena, who also felt something is off about Mawar. However, Kartika cuts her off, saying she doesn't want to talk about Mawar right now because she's grieving over the Tupac news. On the other hand, Mawar notices that the ribbon from her box is missing. Later, when Kartika is in her room, someone continuously knocks on her door. She gets up and moves towards it, but stops when she sees someone trying to open it. Scared, she cautiously moves towards the door and suddenly opens it, only to find no one outside. Confused, she returns to her room, but the door suddenly shuts on its own. Meanwhile, we see Donna in the washroom, who bends down to wash her face. As she splashes water, the mirror reveals the eerie reflection of an entity. Unaware, she straightens up, but the entity vanishes. She then moves to grab a towel, but when she wipes her face, she's startled to find dirt on the towel. Panicked, she turns to the mirror, only to see that her face is still completely clean. On the other hand, Vei is asleep in her room when her eyes suddenly snap open. She pulls the sheet away from herself, feeling an unsettling presence. Moments later, she is horrified to discover that her sheet is completely covered in mud. Frantically, she tries to lift it, but it feels impossibly heavy, and after a struggle, she finally manages to get up. Vei clutches the ribbon tightly as she heads toward Kartika's room, but suddenly, the soft sound of a wind chime echoes through the hallway. She stops and looks around but sees no one. Shaking off the unease, she decides to step forward, only to be startled by a noise from behind her. Turning, she notices a strange mark on the floor, and she bolts down the hallway, feeling an unseen presence behind her. Rounding the corner, she collides with a startled Kartika. Gasping for breath, Vei looks back, only to see the hallway completely normal. The next day, Vei and Kartika meet Lena. She dips the ribbon into a concoction, but when she pulls it out, the vibrant ribbon has transformed into a dirty, tattered cloth. Lena explains that a spirit is attached to Mawar, and when Vei asks what kind of spirit, Lena asks if they truly want to see. That evening, Vei scattered moringa leaves around the house to make sure something is attached to Mawar or had followed her home. Pa asks, "What does she mean?" To which Kartika replies, "Spirits." Donna says she felt something strange the night before, and Vei and Kartika confirm they had experienced it too. Just then, the clouds rumble with thunder, and Pa runs to check on her laundry. Next, we see Pa on the roof, where she notices a figure behind a sheet. Confused, she moves closer and pulls it off, only to discover another sheet hiding the figure. She carefully moves towards the sheet, pulls it away as well, and sees a shadow behind yet another sheet. Cautiously, she approaches, but the entity frightens her, and hearing her screams, the girls rush upstairs to check on her. Terrified, Pa points toward the sheet, but when Kartika checks there, she finds no one there. They calm her down and lead her to the kitchen, where Donna tells Mawar to wake up, insisting that her boyfriend is no good. Vei agrees, suggesting they help her, but Mawar defends Restu, saying he's a good guy. Vei asks if they can meet him, to which Mawar replies, "What for?" And Vei responds that it's because they care about her. Mawar's expression shifts as she turns toward them. She approaches them and tells Vei that she has a boyfriend who cheats on her. Then, she tells Kartika about her idol who was killed. And finally, she tells Donna that she doesn't have anyone, so she should stop poking her nose into other people's business. She then says that if they want to see Restu, he will be coming tonight. And with that, she leaves. That night, as they wait for Restu, the clock strikes 9, and Vei asks Mawar if he is coming, to which Mawar looks at her and assures her that he will. Soon after, the lights go out, and realizing that Mawar has disappeared, Vei tells Kartika to go to Mawar's room while she goes outside to search for her. When Vei steps outside, she notices 2 cups of coffee on the table, indicating that Restu has arrived. She walks out fearfully and looks around but sees no one. However, just as she turns to go back inside, Mawar suddenly appears behind her, telling her to come in so she can introduce her to Restu. Nervously, Vei follows Mawar, and after a moment, Mawar stops, turns toward her, and says, "This is Restu." Vei looks around and is horrified to see a pocong standing there. Terrified, she flees, and after running for a while, she reunites with the others, and Kartika asks what happened. Before Vei can respond, Mawar's voice echoes, asking, "What are they all doing here? And don't they want to meet Restu?" The sound of wind chimes then rings through the hallway, and something begins approaching them. Restu then reveals himself, terrifying them all, prompting them to run upstairs and lock themselves in Vei's room. Vei, shaken, says that Mawar is still outside and in danger. Determined to save her, she rushes back out, but as soon as she steps into the hallway, the sound of wind chimes grows louder, heightening her fear. She slowly descends the stairs, unaware that the pocong is standing right behind her. Somehow, she ends up in Mawar's room, where a hanging light above her suddenly turns on, and before she can understand what is happening, it begins swinging erratically. As it sways, we see the pocong standing on either side of her, but just as it begins to close in, Kartika arrives and takes her away from there. After this, when they both step outside, they find Mawar, drenched in the rain, slowly moving toward the gate. And as they approach her, Mawar suddenly collapses, unconscious. When they bring Mawar inside, she cries, saying that Restu is waiting for her outside. Vei, desperate to snap her out of it, tells her that Restu is not human, but Mawar screams for Restu to come and take her with him. Suddenly, Mawar becomes possessed, her expression shifting into a chilling smile before she starts levitating in the air. Terrified, Kartika and Vei try to restrain her, shouting for Donna to bring a rope. Later, Vei tells Pa to call Melody and ask her to come as soon as possible. She and Kartika then head to Lynn's place, where they are shocked when Alex opens the door. Kartika immediately asks, "What are you doing here?" Alex tries to explain, but Vei says she doesn't care and tells Lena that they urgently need her help, and explains that Mawar has fallen in love with the pocong. Next, we see Lena in their house, preparing for the ritual, and as she does, the lights in the house start flickering, and suddenly, there's a loud knock at the door, startling everyone. Lena goes to the window to check outside, and meanwhile, Kartika and Vei bring Mawar out, and Lena instructs them to put her on the shroud. Lena glances out the window once more, only to be terrified as the pocong suddenly appears there, staring back at her. Meanwhile, Mawar begins spinning on the floor, and before they can react, the door suddenly flies open, and Mawar starts getting dragged outside. The girls rush to stop her, but Mawar laughs maniacally, and in a panic, Donna instructs Pa to lock the door. Pa quickly complies, locking it shut, and Lena then urgently tells Kartika to grab moringa leaves. Kartika quickly brings the moringa leaves, and they place them inside the shroud. Together, they begin wrapping Mawar tightly in the shroud, and after a tense struggle, just as Lena ties the final knot around Mawar's head, everything suddenly falls eerily silent. The next morning, Vei wakes up to the sound of chanting in the house, and quickly realizes the others are missing. Perplexed, she steps outside and finds the others sitting around a body wrapped in a shroud, reading something aloud. Horrified, she assumes that Mawar is dead. But as she moves closer, she's shocked to see that the body is of Melody. Mawar turns toward her, and a sinister smile appears on her face. But suddenly, Vei jolts awake from the nightmare, shaking Kartika and frantically telling her that Mawar is gone. Vei rushes outside, searching for Mawar, but instead finds Melody at the door, who asks her what is going on and what happened to Mawar. Vei explains everything, stating that Mawar started acting strangely after visiting their parents' grave. Lena chimes in, revealing to Melody that her family has a connection to this demon. Melody asks what she means, to which Lena explains that Restu is going to her parents' house, taking Mawar with him. Alex drives them to Mawar's parents' house, and when he asks what he should do, Kartika tells him to wait there. They then enter the house, and Vei suggests they split up to search for Mawar. After inspecting the house for some time, they all arrive at a door blocked by various objects. Working together, they clear the debris and enter a secret room, where an incredibly foul smell assaults them. As they step further inside, they are shocked to see Restu's dead body lying on a table in front of them. Vei notices Mawar's hair clipped nearby and realizes that Mawar was here on her birthday. When Lena asks Melody if this is her father's room, Melody replies that she doesn't know and that she had no idea this room existed until now. Lena explains that, as she suspected, this was a ritual for good fortune and prosperity, one that involved a corpse. She adds that the spirit of the corpse will attach itself to family members for 1,000 years, and the person who performed the ritual must be buried in the same spot from which the corpse was taken. Kartika asks what they should do next and where Mawar is, to which Lena states that they have to return the corpse to its grave. She asks Melody if her parents are buried in the same grave, to which Melody replies that her father requested to be buried on top of her mother. Lena urges her to take them to her parents' grave, explaining that it was Restu's grave first. Suddenly, Melody gets possessed and collapses to the ground, followed by Kartika. Lena also succumbs to possession and falls, but she tells Vay to tie the string around the corpse's head. Vay pulls out the string but also gets possessed and falls down. Alex rushes in, and Vay instructs him to tie the string around the corpse's head. Alex takes the string from her and ties it securely around the corpse's head, causing the others to be free from the possession. They all head toward the graveyard, crossing through a forested area. However, upon reaching the graveyard, Vay and Melody notice that the others are not behind them. They then spot Mawar standing inside the graveyard, and after staring at them for a moment, she walks deeper into the graveyard, prompting Vay and Melody to follow her. Meanwhile, Kartika and Lena realize that they have lost track of Vay and Melody, and Alex is also nowhere to be found. On the other hand, Alex is seen dragging Restu's corpse along as he moves forward, and after some time, he finally reaches the graveyard. Meanwhile, Vay asks Melody to help her find her parents' graves, but they are shocked to discover that all the graves belong to her parents. Shortly after, Kartika and Lena arrive at the same spot, and Kartika points out that all the headstones have the same names. At that moment, Lena notices a pocong standing nearby and warns Kartika not to look left. However, she can't resist and is terrified to see a multitude of pochongs surrounding them. Lena suggests they walk straight ahead, and as they do, they notice a group of people approaching, carrying a corpse to be buried. As they pass by, Lena urges Kartika to follow them. Meanwhile, Vay pleads with Mawar to forgive them and asks her to give them a chance to see her one more time before she goes with Restu. Just then, they also hear the voices of those people and they move in that direction. On the other hand, Alex spots the group of people and feels a surge of fear as they approach him. He hears their voices growing louder, but after a moment, the sounds fall silent. As Alex stands up, Kartika and Lena arrive by his side, and just then, Vay and Melody join them, and they all notice that the headstones no longer look the same. Melody discovers her parents' grave, and as Alex and Kartika dig it, they are shocked to find Mawar buried there alongside her parents' remains. Seeing this, Lena quickly takes out the shroud from her bag and lays it down, while the others carefully lift Mawar out of the grave and place her on the shroud. After that, they place Restu's body in the grave, and Vay instructs Alex to remove the strings and cover the grave with the boards. Meanwhile, Lena and Melody try to revive Mawar, and when Melody administers rescue breaths, Mawar suddenly wakes up and bites her lip. Melody manages to pull herself back, and Mawar gets up and begins crying for Restu. Lena pulls her down and begins chanting, but Kartika and Alex are horrified to see Restu come back to life. They quickly get up and start to bury him again, and during the chaos, Melody reminds Mawar of their promise to their father to always take care of each other. Vay adds that they miss her, and Melody pleads with Mawar not to leave them, saying she is all she has. This heartfelt moment calms Mawar, while Kartika and Alex manage to bury Restu. Time has passed, and Mawar appears fully recovered, surrounded by the warmth of her friends, who celebrate her newfound strength. Vay, however, takes a bold step and breaks up with Alex, choosing to prioritize her own well-being and happiness. Lena, sharing Vay's sentiments, also turns her back on him. One night, as Mawar sits alone in her room, a shadow of sadness washes over her. But then, in an unsettling shift, a creepy smile spreads across her face. The next morning, Vay finds a note from Mawar, thanking her. The note expresses her gratitude for having friends who care and love her so deeply, friends who won't let her fall in love with the wrong person. But love, as they say, is blind. Perhaps in their eyes, Restu is wrong for her, but what if this love feels right for her? This year, her birthday wish has come true, to find someone who can love her for who she is. She wishes they could see what she sees. It is then revealed that the child at the beginning of the movie was Mawar. Her father tells her that the corpse's name is Restu and reassures her that he will save their family. Mawar looks at Restu and smiles, and the movie ends there. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the chills, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a scare. Until next time, stay spooky.